Oliver picked a dare. Kiss someone you like passionately for 2 minutes. Amid the cheers and teasing from our friends, he stood up and started walking toward me. At that time, we were in the middle of a Cold War. I was nervous and shy, not knowing what to do, so I closed my eyes. But Oliver just leaned down and chuckled next to my ear. You want me to kiss you, Alicia? Too bad, I'm already tired of you. Then he turned around and kissed a pretty freshman. At that moment, I suddenly realized I didn't want him anymore. The next day, I applied to study abroad and agreed to an engagement arranged by my family. On his birthday, without looking back, I boarded a flight to a foreign country. The moment the plane landed, my phone was already blowing up with his calls. Chapter 1. When Oliver drew his dare, he was already a little tipsy. One of his mischievous friends picked up the slip of paper and deliberately read it out loud. Kiss someone you like for 2 minutes. Everyone immediately turned to look at me, erupting into a chorus of teasing and laughter. Tonight's gathering had been organized by Oliver himself. We had been giving each other the cold shoulder for over a month. Previously, I had always swallowed my pride to reconcile first. But this time, I didn't know why, maybe out of stubbornness, I refused to back down. I thought the stalemate would continue. Yet, unexpectedly, Oliver had called me today, asking me to come. I was a little nervous, my fingers instinctively clenching the hem of my skirt tightly. By then, Oliver had already stood up. The girls sitting around me giggled and nudged me teasingly. Alicia, your boyfriend's coming to kiss you. A surge of happiness bloomed quietly in my heart. I looked up at Oliver. He was wearing the white shirt I loved, its collar slightly askew. Under the haze of alcohol, his gaze appeared especially tender and affectionate. My cheeks flushed instantly, and I lowered my eyes, fingers curling even tighter. My palms were already covered in a fine layer of sweat. When I looked up again, Oliver had already stopped in front of me. Alicia, he murmured. Oliver bent down. His voice, laced with drunkenness, sounded unusually gentle. I was so nervous I didn't know what to do. Shy to the point I couldn't even look at him. As he leaned in closer, about to kiss me, I panicked and squeezed my eyes shut. Chapter 2. But the kiss I had been expecting never came. Instead, I felt his slightly warm breath brushing against my ear, followed by a low, mocking chuckle. You want me to kiss you that badly? Haven't touched you for a month and you're already so desperate. Alicia? I snapped my eyes open. Oliver had straightened up already. A cold, mocking smile played at his thin lips. His lowered gaze held only indifference and disdain. In that instant, I felt all the blood rush to my head, yet my hands and feet were freezing cold. I sat there, stiff and motionless, staring blankly as he turned away from me. Amid the stunned, silent room, he reached out and took the hand of a pretty junior student. Can I? He asked. I knew that girl had always had a crush on him. She had hinted at it countless times, both openly and subtly. When I had gotten jealous before, he had casually brushed it off, saying he wasn't interested in her. But now, he lowered his head and kissed her, without a moment's hesitation. After she shyly nodded, the kiss lasted the full 2 minutes. Not a second more, not a second less. When it ended, he even raised his hand and gently rubbed her swollen lips, wiping away the intimate traces at the corner of her mouth. Chapter 3. The girls sitting around me all looked at me with pity and sadness. Oliver shot me a casual glance, then went back to his seat and picked up the bottle. Why so quiet? Come on, it's just getting interesting. Keep playing. Someone tried to ease the tension. Oliver, maybe you shouldn't drink anymore. Look how drunk you are. Yeah, Oliver. Alicia's about to cry. Go comfort her. Oliver leaned back lazily in his chair, looking completely indifferent. Why would I comfort her? She's still your girlfriend. You went too far just now. Who said she's my girlfriend? The sneer at the corner of Oliver's lips grew colder. We broke up a month ago, didn't we? I lowered my gaze and couldn't help but let out a small laugh. Alicia, are you okay? The girl next to me reached out and held my hand. I shook my head. I'm fine. I'll head out first. You guys have fun. I stood up and walked toward the door. Behind me, I heard the soft, sweet voice of the younger girl. Is Senior Alicia mad? Ignore her. Oliver said lazily, signaling for another drink. Keep drinking, Oliver. I think Alicia's really upset this time. I didn't stop. I pulled open the door and walked out. Right before the door closed, I heard Oliver's careless voice drifting over. What's it got to do with me? Hasn't she been mad before? And every time. She's the one who comes back begging. Do you even want her to come back again? The door shut firmly, blocking out the rest of the conversation. I never heard his answer, but it didn't matter anymore. Chapter 4. Back when I was dating Oliver. I chose to stay in the country for graduate school, but now, studying abroad seemed like a much better idea. I took some time to pack up the things I had left at Oliver's apartment and moved them back to my dorm. I didn't tell anyone about my plan to study overseas. Life quickly became busy. There was simply too much to prepare. Gradually, I barely thought about Oliver anymore, until one day, at the cafeteria, I bumped into him and a few of his friends. There was still a young, pretty girl clinging to him, but it wasn't the same girl from last time. Alicia! Long time no see. Want to grab lunch together? One of his friends called out cheerfully. I smiled politely. Thanks, but I'm eating with my roommate. All right. Hey, we're meeting up tonight at the usual spot. You should come. Out of instinct, I glanced at Oliver. His expression was cold and unreadable. He didn't stop his friend from inviting me. Inside, I felt only calm indifference. I shook my head. No thanks. I have other plans tonight. What's with all the fuss? It's just dinner. Oliver suddenly snapped at his friends, then turned and walked off without a second glance. His friends looked a little awkward and apologized to me. I waved it off and left. After dinner, when I returned to the dorm building, I ran into Oliver again with his new girlfriend. She clung to him, kissing his cheek now and then, but Oliver's face showed a hint of impatience. I walked past them without sparing a glance, heading toward the dorm entrance. Just as I was about to walk inside, Oliver suddenly called out, Alicia. Chapter 5. My steps faltered for a moment, but I didn't stop. Oliver called out again, Alicia. I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear? He shoved aside the girl in front of him and walked straight up to me. What's the matter? I asked calmly, looking him in the eye. I need something. Okay. Go ahead. His new girlfriend clung to him, shooting me a hostile glare. The cakes you used to buy me, where did you get them from? Oliver lazily slung an arm around his girlfriend and looked down at me arrogantly. My girlfriend loves cake too. I want to get some for her. I made them myself. I replied evenly. If she wants some, I can send her the recipe. Oliver frowned slightly. No need for that. How about this? You make me 2 cakes. Of course. I'll pay you. I smiled lightly. Sorry, I don't have time. No time or just unwilling? Oliver smirked, staring at me. Jealous? Suddenly, I felt incredibly bored. I didn't want to argue. Didn't want to waste my breath on such meaningless things. Think whatever you want. I brushed past him and quickly headed into the dormitory. As soon as I got back, my roommate dragged me to the window. Downstairs, Oliver seemed to be arguing with his new girlfriend. A few minutes later, he impatiently shook her off and drove away. The girl stood there crying for a while before finally leaving in defeat. My roommate, still glued to the window, turned to me excitedly. Alicia, I swear, Oliver still likes you. Maybe he's just trying to provoke you. Make you cave first. I laughed and flicked her forehead. Girl, you need to stop reading so many CEO romance novels. They're frying your brain. Chapter 6. Because of my feelings for Oliver, I had previously refused the marriage arrangement my family proposed. Now that they heard I planned to study abroad, they brought it up again. Uncle, can I think about it a bit more? Of course, you want to focus on your studies first. There's no rush to get married. But before you leave, at least meet him once. You have to like him yourself. All right. I no longer refused their kindness. My 2 uncles loved me dearly. After my mother passed away and my father remarried, they became the ones who loved me the most in this world. That night, I had dinner with my best friend, and I told her about my plans to study abroad. Halfway through dinner, I went to the restroom and saw that Oliver had called me. Alicia, what about your stuff? he asked. I moved everything back to my dorm. Oliver's voice was cold and emotionless. Since you moved out, clean it up properly. My girlfriend is coming over tonight. She got upset seeing your things. I'm sorry, I said calmly. Just throw them away. Fine, but don't regret it. The call ended abruptly. I stared at my own bewildered reflection in the mirror. I really couldn't understand him. I didn't even want the person anymore. Why would I still care about the things he gave me? Chapter 7. I agreed to my uncle's request to meet the man before going abroad, but I never expected that the person who showed up would be someone I was supposed to call uncle. Even my best friend was stunned. She grabbed my hand and whispered, half screaming, Alicia, your blind date is Ryan? I instinctively sat up straighter, my cheeks heating up. I didn't know it would be him either. I can't do this. Alicia, I'm scared. I need to fake a bathroom emergency. After whispering that, my best friend immediately let go of my hand, before Ryan could even get close. She shot up from her seat. Sir, I'm going to the restroom first. She even bowed politely before dashing off like a rabbit, disappearing without a trace. Uncle, I greeted him softly, suddenly feeling too embarrassed to look him in the eye like before. Ryan sat down across from me. What would you like to eat? Anything's fine. I'm not picky. He ordered a few dishes and asked, is this okay? I glanced at the menu. They were all my favorite dishes. I was a little surprised and couldn't help but steal a glance at him. In my memory, he had always been aloof and exuded an intimidating aura of authority. But today, dressed a bit more casually, he looked much more approachable. Still, I felt a bit nervous and answered softly, they're fine. After the waiter left with the menu, Ryan suddenly spoke. Alicia, are you scared of me? I instinctively nodded, then quickly shook my head in panic. In the past, whenever I saw him, it was from afar, standing quietly behind my uncles. Even when the adults chatted, I would just quietly stand by without saying a word. He wasn't much older, just a generation above me. In fact, he was only 27. And what do you think of me? Ryan asked again. I was stunned for a moment. He smiled lightly. Don't be nervous. You can take your time to answer. I took a deep breath. Uncle, Alicia. He interrupted. You can call me by my name. I clenched my palms tightly, hesitated for a long while, then called out softly, Ryan, I'm going abroad for school. I'll be gone at least 2 years. It doesn't matter, he said calmly. If you're willing, we can get engaged first. Why? I asked, puzzled. After all, a man like him had countless options for marriage, and I was just a girl who lost her mother early, with a father who had remarried, a girl with a family in name only. Ryan handed me a glass of juice. His fingers were long and strong, pressing gently against the glass, so beautiful they almost looked carved from jade. I found myself staring blankly for a second. After setting the glass down, he reached out and gently stroked the top of my head. Alicia, he said softly, I don't want to scare you, so let's keep this a secret for now. Chapter 8. 3 days before I left the country, Ryan and I quietly got engaged. The day before my departure, Oliver suddenly called me. Alicia, tomorrow's my birthday. I was packing my suitcase and replied absent-mindedly. Yeah, you know the place, Oliver said lazily. As usual, I'm giving you the chance to make amends. It's up to you if you take it. Before I could respond, he hung up. My uncle came knocking at my door. Alicia, Mr. Ryan is here to take you to dinner. I quickly answered and closed my suitcase. As for Oliver's call just now, I had already thrown it to the back of my mind, since I had a long flight the next day. Ryan made sure not to keep me out too late. He had a little wine at dinner. When I got out of the car, Ryan suddenly grasped my wrist. Alicia, with a gentle tug, he pulled me into his arms. The rich scent of wine lingered on him, and that faint woody cedar fragrance quickly enveloped me. It was a completely different kind of presence, compared to Oliver's arrogant, spoiled boyishness. Ryan carried the mature, unique scent of a real man. I was momentarily dazed, until Ryan lowered his head and pressed a soft kiss on my lips. Get some rest early, he whispered. I'll take you to the airport tomorrow. After speaking, he rubbed my lips lightly with his thumb, while I was blushing and helpless. He suddenly leaned into my ear and said, "Our Alicia truly lives up to her name." Chapter 9. At 7 p.m. All the friends had arrived. There was an empty seat next to Oliver. He hadn't brought a date. Everyone understood. That seat was reserved for Alicia. After all this drama, they could all see it clearly. Oliver still liked Alicia. He was just too proud, always waiting for her to bow her head first. After tonight, you two should stop being so stubborn. What's the point? Walking around like the world owes you $8 million bucks? When Alicia arrives, you better coax her properly and apologize. Oliver casually glanced toward the door. Not coaxing. I'm already giving her an out. That's enough. Man, you're really asking for it. It's getting late. Why isn't Alicia here yet? Did you even tell her properly, Oliver? Oliver lowered his eyes and checked the time. Whatever. She can come or not. I'll go check outside. Oliver didn't stop him. He walked over to the window. The sky outside had darkened. He looked down at the traffic below, unsure if the car he was waiting for had arrived. Oliver somehow thought back to his birthday last year. Back then, he and Alicia had been doing great. She had given him a belt and a pair of cufflinks. He wore them almost every day, and the diamond earrings he gifted her for her birthday. She had worn them constantly too, but when she left the apartment, she didn't take the earrings with her. Oliver didn't know why, but his chest felt unusually heavy. At that moment, the door to the room burst open. Someone shouted joyfully, "Oliver, she's here!" He turned sharply, feeling the gloom over his heart instantly lift. He knew very well how much Alicia liked him. He just knew she would come tonight, and if she came, this time, he would be the one to lower his pride and coax her. Chapter 10. Oliver leaned lazily against the window ledge, still keeping that laid-back, nonchalant posture, as if he didn't care who might walk through that door, as if he had no expectations at all. But the arm resting on the windowsill was tense, and his fingers, at some point, had clenched tightly. A massive surprise. "It's almost here." The person who entered was full of excitement, and the whole room's mood lifted instantly. There was a faint smile tugging at the corner of Oliver's lips. He lowered his gaze and said indifferently, "Same old tricks every year. What kind of surprise could it be? This time it's really different." Oliver's expression remained cool, but deep down, waves had already begun to stir. What surprise would Alicia prepare for him? His friends were right. He really had gone too far. That day, he didn't know what came over him. He had kissed another girl right in front of Alicia, but the moment that kiss ended, he regretted it instantly. If Alicia had shed even one tear that night, he would have immediately apologized and begged for forgiveness. But she didn't. She simply walked away in silence. Since then, he'd acted out, dating one girl after another. Alicia must have been heartbroken. And yet, she had still gone out of her way to prepare him a birthday surprise. Suddenly, a thought settled in Oliver's heart. This was it. She was the one. He was going to stop playing around and finally be serious about Alicia. A friend nudged him gently and whispered, "Drop the tough guy act." Oliver, surprisingly, nodded lightly. His friend blinked in shock. "You really feel guilty this time?" Oliver chuckled. "Yeah, I really do. Holy crap. Miracles do happen. I was a total jerk before." Oliver said this seriously, looking his friend straight in the eye. "I've made up my mind. I'm going to settle down, be with Alicia properly. I won't make her mad anymore." His friend looked pleased. "Finally, Alicia's gonna be over the moon. It's not too late," Oliver added just as two waiters wheeled in a huge pink gift box, tied with satin ribbons. Oliver was momentarily stunned. His friend laughed and nudged him forward. "What are you waiting for? Go on. Open it. Let's see what Alicia got you." Oliver's heartbeat picked up, a strange nervousness creeping in. He'd been through all kinds of wild parties, but now, his palms were sweating. Was Alicia inside? Was her surprise to give herself to him? Chapter 11. Oliver's mind was a complete mess. He and Alicia had been dating for over 2 years, during her graduate school prep. She'd sometimes crash at his off-campus apartment when studying late, but they had never gone all the way. And honestly, that used to bother him. Most of their fights stemmed from that. He still remembered their worst argument. Alicia had cried her heart out, and he didn't even try to comfort her. All he could think about was his own frustration. But now, Oliver finally realized what a fool he had been. Alicia had no mother. Her father had remarried and started a new family, never caring much about her. If he had truly cared for her, if he had really loved her, he should have understood her insecurity. He should have promised her something real, commitment, stability, a future. All of a sudden, Oliver made up his mind. Why not propose tonight? As the thought settled, his once racing heart calmed down. It was as if deep inside, he'd always been waiting for this moment of clarity. His friends cheered and pushed him toward the giant pink gift box. He reached out and untied the satin bow. The lid popped open. A stream of heart-shaped balloons floated out. And so did a girl, wearing a matching pink crop top and miniskirt. She jumped out of the box, giggling, and threw herself into his arms. The scent of her perfume hit him before she did, clinging to his neck. She wrapped herself around him completely, before he could react. She kissed him hard on the cheek. Happy birthday, Oliver. Were you surprised? Wasn't it fun? She looked up at him, her beautiful face brimming with joy. Oliver didn't move. He just stared at the girl in his arms. There was a moment of confusion, dissonance. When had Alicia become so forward, so over the top? When had her face become so unfamiliar, so unlikable? 30 seconds passed. Then slowly, clarity hit. As the girl leaned in for another kiss, Oliver suddenly pushed her away. Oliver! She almost fell, stomping her foot in frustration. Under the bright lights, 2 diamond earrings sparkled by her ear, glinting so sharply, they stung Oliver's eyes. In a flash, he stepped forward and grabbed her arm, his handsome face twisted with rage. Who told you to wear those earrings? Who said you could? The girl turned pale. You said they were an eyesore, that I should toss them, but I thought they were pretty, so I kept them. Take them off! She froze, still stunned. Oliver's grip tightened, his voice cold. Will you do it, or should I? The room was deathly silent. Only her sobs broke through the air. Trembling, she pulled off the earrings and threw them at his chest. I want to break up. Oliver! Break up? Oliver laughed bitterly, clenching the earrings in his bloody hand. Did we ever start dating? Did I ever say you were my girlfriend? Tears poured down her cheeks. But you kissed me, held me, brought me home. So what? Oliver's smile was cold and cruel. I've kissed lots of girls. Does that make them all my girlfriends? You bastard. You're right, he said. I'm a bastard. So now, can you get the hell out? Blood trickled from his palm. The earrings had dug deep into his skin, but he didn't let go. That pain, it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Alicia wasn't coming, and yet he had waited, foolishly hoping she would, hoping she'd walk in with a birthday surprise. What a joke. Chapter 12. The long flight finally ended. When I landed in a foreign country, it was just at sunset. Back home, it must have been around 3 or 4 in the morning. I turned on my phone, and a flood of notifications poured in. It took a long while before the screen finally calmed down. Out of habit, I tapped to check. Almost all the messages and missed calls were from Oliver. I frowned, a little surprised. Oliver had never been like this. When we used to fight, if I didn't bow my head first, he would never reach out. Well, he had, sometimes, but only to humiliate me publicly. Thinking back on that night now, it felt like it belonged to another lifetime, so far away, so irrelevant. I chuckled softly and brushed those unpleasant memories aside. Just then, my phone vibrated again. Oliver calling. Once more. I didn't answer. He called a second time. Honestly, Oliver and I didn't have any deep hatred between us. Our families had close business ties, and I never intended for us to become sworn enemies. Just to go back to being polite strangers. No more. no less. But judging by his persistence, he clearly didn't think the same way, and I was already engaged. It was time to draw clear boundaries with other men. I calmly declined the call, deleted his number, and blocked him. Moments later, another call came through from a friend. I ignored it too. Soon after, she sent a text. Alicia, please, could you answer the call? Yesterday was Oliver's birthday. You didn't show up. He drank all night and is now hooked up to an 4 at the hospital. We can all tell, this time, he really regrets it. Alicia, give him one more chance, won't you? I gripped my phone tightly. In the distance, Ryan's arranged car was already waiting. Thinking of Ryan's embrace before I left, my heart warmed slightly. He promised he'd fly over every month to visit me. Promised I could focus on my studies without worrying about scandals back home. Just thinking of Ryan, a deep sense of security settled over me. No more insecurity, no more endless anxiety. I thought for a moment, then replied to my friend, we've broken up. Please don't tell me anything about him ever again. Thank you. I locked my phone, tucked it back into my bag. Ryan's people came to take my luggage. The driver respectfully opened the car door for me. Miss, everything has been arranged. Let's get you home first. The car cruised through the foreign streets. I looked out curiously at the scenery. Everything was fresh, full of hope. For the first time in a long while, I was filled with genuine excitement for the life that was about to begin. Chapter 13. After replying to my friend's message that day, Oliver indeed never called or texted me again, and I, too, quickly forgot everything about him, immersing myself completely in my new life and studies. A month later, Ryan came to visit me abroad, just as he had promised. Strangely enough, even though it had only been a short month, when I saw him again, I felt an inexplicable shyness. Clearly, when I left for overseas, he had hugged me and kissed me at the airport. But now, facing him again, I couldn't even lift my head to look him in the eyes. As dinner was about to begin, Ryan suddenly stood up and moved from across the table to the chair beside me. I immediately tensed up, sitting properly with my back straight, hands on my knees, like a nervous little schoolgirl. Alicia, Ryan gently held my hand. My palm was sweaty and hot, but he gripped it firmly. Just a month apart, and you're afraid of me again? I couldn't answer. That strange, delicate feeling was simply too hard to describe. Should I start visiting twice a month? Then, I immediately turned my head toward him, and just as I did, Ryan leaned in and kissed me. Alicia, I've missed you so much this past month. His voice was low and slightly hoarse, brushing against my lips. Instinctively, I tried to pull away, but he wrapped his arm around my waist, not letting me move. The kiss wasn't deep, just like before, gentle and restrained, never making me uncomfortable or caught off guard. Instead, a warm, honeyed sweetness spread through me, making it almost hard to breathe. It was as if a tiny silver spoon was stirring crushed ice and honey water inside my chest. Waves of sweetness rippling outward. Before I knew it, I had gripped his sleeve tightly, wrinkling the fabric. It wasn't until the waiter came over that Ryan finally ended the kiss. My face was burning hot. I must have been blushing terribly. But from then on, spending time with Ryan, I no longer felt the same shyness or tension as before. Once, after a little red wine, I even got bold enough to tease him. Ryan, you know, being with you feels really comfortable, really safe. Oh, he raised an eyebrow slightly. I rested my chin on my hand, stared at him for a while, then burst into laughter. It's like being around my uncles, so relaxed, so at ease, like I'm still a little kid. Ryan chuckled and lightly patted my head. You are a little kid, Alicia. At your age, you should be carefree and happy. He said this while gently fixing my scarf. In front of me, you can always stay that way. Why? I looked at him, dazed, asking once again, why me? Why get engaged to me? Why treat me so well? After my mother died, I learned the cruel reality of the world. Most people prioritize interests above everything else. Yet no matter how I calculated, apart from a modest inheritance left by my mother, I had nothing worth exploiting, and for someone like Ryan, that inheritance meant absolutely nothing. Alicia, when we get married, I'll tell you everything. He kissed my forehead lightly. You've had too much to drink. Let's go home. All right, Ryan, let's go home. Chapter 14. On the third day after Ryan returned to his country, I had just come out of the university library when I saw Oliver. The morning mist had cleared. The sun hung high in the sky. Yet the cold still lingered. I was bundled up in a coat and scarf, but I still felt the chill everywhere. Meanwhile, Oliver stood under a tree, wearing only a thin trench coat. He seemed thinner, perhaps from long travels. His face also looked a little weary, yet he was still striking, dazzling, even on this unfamiliar campus abroad. He caught the attention of passers-by. I hesitated for a second, then hugged my books tighter and continued walking. As I passed him, I neither looked up nor glanced at him, but Oliver still called out to me, Alicia. He stepped forward and blocked my way. I didn't know how long he had been standing there. Mist had dampened his hair and eyes. I've been looking for you for a long time. I smiled lightly. Is there something you need? Why did you suddenly go abroad for school? Why didn't you even tell me? If it's because of that truth or dare night, Alicia, I can apologize to you. Oliver grabbed my arm. I took a step back and pulled my hand away. That's all in the past, I said. And honestly, I stopped caring long ago. Oliver frowned slightly. Then why did you leave? It was my own decision. He stared at me, his brows furrowing deeper. All right, you're already abroad. There's no changing that. At worst, I'll just fly over more often. I was a little surprised. Fly over? I'm the man. Of course I'll be the one traveling to see you. Wait. I cut him off. Oliver, you don't need to fly over to see me. There's no need. And I don't want you to. Alicia, are you still angry? If you're still angry and mind it so much, why did you say it's all in the past? I almost laughed. Oliver, how clear do you want me to be when I said it's all in the past? I meant I don't care about what happened, and I don't care about you anymore. Understand? He looked confused. What do you mean? We broke up a long time ago. I gazed at him calmly. Oliver, now do you understand? Chapter 15. I didn't know whether Oliver was just too arrogant, or if I hadn't made myself clear enough. He didn't go back to his country. Instead, he showed up at school every day, waiting for me. At first, I ignored him completely, treating him like air. But within a few days, rumors started spreading on campus. Many people were gossiping, saying I had a handsome Eastern boyfriend. I was afraid the rumors would get out of hand and reach Ryan, which might upset him. After thinking it over carefully, I decided I should have a proper talk with Oliver. But before I could even speak, Oliver pulled out a ring. Alicia, I know exactly what you're thinking, he said. You just want marriage. You want security, right? He grabbed my hand, trying to slip the ring onto my finger. We'll get engaged first. You can decide whenever you want to get the marriage certificate. Is that good enough? I forcefully pulled my hand back, and the ring dropped onto the table. The diamond was big and dazzling. I won't deny it. At the height of my feelings for him, I had fantasized about this moment. But after countless cold wars, after endless arguments about whether or not to sleep together, after being hurt again and again over other girls, after personally watching him kiss that freshman girl, any affection or expectations I had for him had long since vanished into thin air. Oliver, I came here just to tell you once again, I have already broken up with you. Please go back and don't look for me again. Oliver seemed to suddenly get angry. Alicia, you've been making a fuss long enough. I won't force you to do anything anymore. You want marriage? Fine. I agreed. What else do you want? Oliver, I'm already engaged. I looked at him calmly. So please, stop bothering me, okay? Oliver stared at me for a long while, then suddenly laughed. Stop joking around. Alicia, who could you possibly be engaged to? We just had a fight. A cold war for a few days. And now you're engaged to someone else? Oliver looked at me mockingly. When did you become so easy? Believe it or not, I said. I've said all I need to say. If you keep stalking me at school, I'll call the police. I picked up my bag and turned to leave. Oliver grabbed my wrist. Alicia, then at least tell me, who are you engaged to? He yanked hard. And I stumbled a little. After dating me for 2 years. Even if we broke up, you should at least let me check who you're with now, right? I don't need your approval. Oh, or maybe there's no one at all. He sneered. Nice move, Alicia. You learned from me. Trying to make me jealous? I really thought he was sick. And not just a little. Oliver, I'm not as childish as you. Then say your fiancé's name. You really want to know? Of course. My ex-girlfriend's engaged. Wouldn't I be curious? I raised my hand and pointed to a business magazine on a nearby rack. On the cover was Ryan. Him. Oliver followed the direction I pointed, glanced at it, and laughed. Alicia, at least make your lie a little more believable. That's Ryan. Even my dad has to bow to him. I said it's him. Believe it or not. Oliver's expression relaxed. The smile on his lips deepened. All right. Stop messing around. Alicia, let's just make up. Let's go back to how we used to be, okay? I looked at him wearily. Explaining any further would just make me look ridiculous. I turned and walked away without another word. Oliver seemed like he was about to chase after me. But then his phone rang, after a few words. His expression changed drastically. And he hurriedly left. I didn't know what happened. But I let out a huge sigh of relief. After Oliver left, the campus rumors quickly faded away. Ryan still called and video chatted with me regularly, acting no different than usual. Only then did I fully relax. It seemed none of those silly rumors had reached him. Chapter 16. Month after month. Time passed. Ryan kept up his promise, flying in to see me twice every month without fail. And Oliver, after that last time he came to find me, never showed up again. Only once did he try calling me using a friend's phone. But every time I heard his voice, I hung up immediately. When spring arrived, my birthday was also approaching. Missing my 2 uncles dearly, I returned home with Ryan for a visit. That evening, during a family dinner, Ryan suddenly mentioned to my uncles that he wanted to register our marriage. I was a little surprised, but my uncles were thrilled, and deep inside, I didn't feel the slightest resistance. In fact, I felt happy. We set the date for our marriage registration on my birthday. Plans for the wedding also slowly began. The night before registering, I arranged a gathering with my best girlfriends. Ryan said I should enjoy a carefree night with them while I still could. Because after we were officially married, he wouldn't allow me to stay out all night anymore. That evening, as we were eating, we happened to run into some of Oliver's old friends. After dinner, my friends and I decided to swing by a trendy nightclub. But the moment I got out of the car, I saw Oliver. He leaned against a car, gazing straight at me, without blinking. The early spring wind in the capital was still bitterly cold. I shrank my neck, pulled my coat tighter around me, and walked right past him without even glancing. Oliver didn't try to stop me. Inside, it was noisy and chaotic, a type of place my friends and I never really liked. After a short while, we decided to leave and head to a quiet tea lounge. But just as I stood up, Oliver called out to me, Alicia, since you're back, don't go back to France. I found it both absurd and annoying. Ignoring him, I tried to leave, but he blocked my way again. I didn't throw away these earrings. He opened his palm. The diamond earrings still shone brilliantly. When he had first given me this birthday gift, I had been so happy, yet faintly disappointed too. Even so, I wore them every day, never taking them off. But when I finally made up my mind to let go, I had deliberately left them behind in his apartment. I've been thinking a lot these days. You weren't wrong for not wanting to sleep together before marriage. You weren't wrong for refusing to apologize during our last Cold War. I was wrong to deliberately provoke you. But Alicia, all of this happened because I still liked you. Because I cared about you. Oliver pointed to his tie, then showed me his cufflinks. See? I still wear what you gave me every single day. Alicia, we were together for 2 years. Not 2 days. Not 2 months. I know deep down you still care too. Don't you? I was completely fed up with his excuses, and I knew all too well. He was just someone used to winning. Used to having everything he wanted. He had never experienced losing something he already possessed. That's why he couldn't accept it. That's why he was clinging on so stubbornly. As for love or care, it all seemed too cheap to mention now. But I'm getting married tomorrow. Oliver, you should move on too. Alicia, you can throw a tantrum. You can even get engaged out of spite. But marriage isn't a joke. Alicia, don't ruin your whole life just to get back at me. I shoved his hand away forcefully. Oliver, you're not that important. You stopped being important a long time ago. I looked at him one last time, seriously and calmly. Oliver, I would never joke about my future with someone who no longer matters. Maybe it was the first time I ever saw such an expression on Oliver's face. He had always been so proud, so aloof. Nothing ever seemed to touch him, even when I cried during our breakups. He would just frown in irritation and light a cigarette. But now, he just stood there, still and quiet. Those once flirtatious, carefree eyes had completely lost their sparkle, whether he was in pain or feeling regret. How long he would suffer, none of it mattered to me anymore. Chapter 17, the day Ryan and I registered our marriage. We returned together to our new home. Some things just happened naturally, as they're meant to. My uncles fully supported my marriage with Ryan. Every procedure and tradition was meticulously respected, because Ryan treated everything so seriously and respectfully. My uncles went from being cautious and worried, to fully accepting him with peace of mind. Only then did I find out, after my mother passed away. When my father remarried, Ryan had quietly helped behind the scenes. If it hadn't been for him, it would have been very difficult for my uncles alone to secure my inheritance rights so smoothly. The house was warm and cozy with the heating on, as Ryan helped blow dry my hair. I didn't know if it was because he was too close, or the heat from the air, but soon my back started to sweat, and my cheeks flushed bright red. Ryan, can you tell me now? Why me? He turned off the dryer, leaned down to my ear, and smiled teasingly. I'll tell you after the wedding night. Ryan! I glared at him through the mirror. If I change my mind after the wedding night, it'll be too late. You still want to back out? If you don't give me a good answer. My voice trailed off, because Ryan had already wrapped his arms around my waist, and was kissing me, deeply, insistently. This kiss was different, no longer gentle and restrained, but fierce, breath-stealing, overwhelming. My legs almost gave out from the intensity. Ryan scooped me up, and sat me on the vanity table. He parted my legs, brushed aside my messy hair, and kissed the sensitive spot behind my ear. My body trembled violently, as if electric currents were running through me. You want to call off the wedding, Alicia? Or are you thinking of running away? He whispered this against my neck, while kissing me again and again. I tried to push him away, but there was no escape. Finally, he captured my swollen lips once more. Do you remember? He said between kisses. How I told you I was afraid of scaring you. I remember. I gasped, but before I could say more, he kissed me even deeper, making my whole body tremble. I first met you when you were 16, he said. 16. My mother was still alive back then. I froze, eyes widening. He held me tightly, his hands soothing my trembling back. You weren't of age yet, Alicia. I could only wait. Then your mother passed away, and you still weren't 18. I remember now. You came to my mother's funeral. You told me to grieve properly, not to cry too much. You grew up, but the timing was never right. Alicia, he whispered. I've been waiting for you all this time. Ryan cupped my face, gently wiping away every tear. It was then I recalled, over the years, my uncles had occasionally suggested blind dates. But back then, having just lost my mother and still so young, I had no thoughts of such things. I just never expected, Ryan said, that after you went to college, you'd fall for another guy. I once had selfish, dark thoughts of taking you away, but seeing how happy you were with him, I gave up. 2 whole years. Alicia, I have never endured such torment. Ryan lowered his eyes and looked at me. His fingers traced my brows, my eyes, gently brushing every inch of my face, until finally stopping at the corner of my eye, where a tear slipped out. Don't cry, Alicia. Ryan, so when you said you were afraid of scaring me, was it because you already liked me back when I was 16? Ryan didn't answer. The truth was far more complicated. Things he couldn't bear to tell her. Those secret, forbidden feelings he'd kept locked away. She had appeared in his dreams countless times. In those dreams, he'd crossed countless lines. But now, the dream had become reality. She was truly in his arms. Yes, he finally said. I despised myself for it. I even secretly sought advice from a psychologist. But a teenager falling in love secretly is normal, right? I said. Ryan laughed bitterly. But Alicia, I was 6 years older than you. At her age, love was innocent and pure. At his, the desire to possess was intense, almost feral. I frowned slightly. True, you're 6 years older. My best friend says men start declining after 25. And you're already 28. Before I could finish, Ryan suddenly scooped me up. The world spun. I landed on the soft bed, then was immediately enveloped by his burning body. Alicia, he whispered huskily. Don't just listen to hearsay. You should see for yourself. Feel it yourself, before making any judgments. He guided my hand downward. My eyes flew wide open in shock. Ryan, he laughed at my expression. How's a 28-year-old man? I tried pulling my hand away, but he pressed it tighter. Then he lowered himself, claiming my lips with a deep, searing kiss. Alicia, he murmured between kisses. Don't cry later, because even if you cry, I won't go easy on you. But in the end, he did. Just like that day at my mother's funeral, when my sobs melted all his defenses. And now, under him, when a single tear slid down my cheek, he stopped immediately. He cradled me gently, soothing me for a long, long time. That night felt endless, as if dawn would never come. But the next day passed in a blink. When I finally opened my eyes, it was already afternoon, and the moment I woke, Ryan leaned down to kiss me. Time to get up, he said warmly. If you don't, your uncles will start a riot. I chuckled with my eyes still closed. Stretching my arms toward him, he bent down immediately and lifted me into his arms. Alicia, he murmured. So soft and sweet, just like her name. Do you like it? I asked daringly, peeking up at him, but before he could answer, I buried my face shyly in his chest. Ryan carried me steadily toward the bathroom. Only after a long while did I hear his low, tender voice. I like it. I really like it. I always have. He had loved me for a long, long time, long before I ever knew it. Through my pain and my joy, there was someone quietly caring about my every emotion. I didn't know what the future would hold. But at this very moment, this instant, I felt nothing but pure happiness and contentment. Chapter 18. On the day I married Ryan, Oliver's parents attended the wedding, but Oliver himself didn't come. When I saw his parents, there was a slight awkwardness between us. Still, I didn't let my past grievances with Oliver affect the elders. After all, back when we were dating, they had treated me with courtesy, even if I knew deep down they weren't fully satisfied with me. Ryan, however, was noticeably colder. Their nervous expressions were obvious, with Oliver's family already in decline. Offending Ryan would only make things worse for them. Looking at Oliver's mother's anxious eyes, I remembered how, when my mother passed away, she had come to the funeral too. She had hugged me, crying softly in sympathy. Thinking of that, I couldn't bear to be cruel. I tugged lightly at Ryan's sleeve. Only then did he relax his expression slightly, and allowed the staff to accept the elder's wedding gift. While changing dresses midway through the banquet, I received a text from an unfamiliar number. Alicia, congratulations on your marriage. I knew it was from Oliver. After a moment's thought, I replied simply, thank you. A long pause. Then another message came through. If that night during Truth or Dare, I had kissed you, would we have never broken up? This time, I didn't reply. Instead, I deleted and blocked the number, because in this world, there are no what ifs, and I was truly thankful, grateful for his foolishness that night. If it weren't for that night, I wouldn't have felt so disheartened. I wouldn't have decided to study abroad, nor agreed to meet Ryan at my uncle's arrangement, and I wouldn't have known that being loved wholly and unconditionally could feel this wonderful. Alicia, are you ready? Ryan pushed the door open. I turned around, smiling radiantly at him. All ready.